We are live. It is 30 with Karen and Justin. We're not really sure if Karen's showing up today. She has a busy day. So we'll just we'll leave it to chance. There's got to be an over under at some point. We're going to start betting on this. That would be fun. But we've got a great guest today. I have a quick confession. I'm a super nerd when it comes to history. And actually, very proudly, my son came home the other day and said he's in grade 11. And he said, Dad, I'm really loving this North American historical class I'm taking in school. I'm like, that's cool. Like that's really cool. So I'm a learning nerd and I love the history about Burlington and history about the world in general. So today we've got Miriam Martens, manager of events and programs at the Museums of Burlington. How many of you that are listening right now even knew there was museums in Burlington? Right? Let's start with that. So we have the team behind the Ireland House and the Joseph Brant Museum, and we're going to talk about what they do and what most people in Burlington don't know about our local museums and why more of us should actually be going to see these places because it's a pretty cool setup we've got going on. So let's just start with something super simple. We've got Joseph Brant Museum. We've got the Ireland House. What are they?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of people actually don't even realize that both fall under the canopy of Museums of Burlington. So, we
Ooh.
get a lot of guests that come to one, then go to one the next day and see the same staff. And they're like, hey, I just saw you at Joseph Brant Museum. So, it's the same people running both sites.
Yep.
So, Joseph Brant Museum is right downtown in the core of Burlington, across from Spencer Smith Park. And it's a museum that really reflects on the history of Burlington from the beginnings with Joseph Brant, Burlington's first kind of citizen and developer, all the way up to Burlington today. It has three permanent galleries that talk about Burlington's past, and one of them is also a children's discovery gallery. So there's things in there like a giant light bright wall and a magnetic wall and bikes you can ride.
Very
And
cool.
then the really cool thing about Joseph Brant Museum is that we have what's called the Showcase Gallery, and that exhibits traveling exhibits that come from all over Canada.
Oh,
So
that's
there's actually
cool.
something new in it every 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
So we can talk about that later because I'm super excited about
Yes.
the exhibit that we have now and the one coming in April.
Very cool.
Ireland House, completely different vibe over there, but just as cool. It's a living history museum, is what you would call it. So it's an actual house built between 1835 to 1837. And the Ireland family was one of Burlington's most prominent agricultural families. And all four generations of the family lived in this home. So I'm sure you know, as like a realtor, there's not a lot of people who can say, I've lived in my grandparents, my great grandparents, my great great grandparents' home.
Doesn't happen very often.
No, I lived in my grandparents, and people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And this family is what I like to call historical hoarders. They kept everything, and we're so grateful that they did, because the house is furnished with 90% of artifacts that are original to the family members.
Mm.
So you get a full guided tour of the home when you come to Ireland House, and we take you basically through the time periods through the 1800s up into the early 1900s, reflecting on the three different farming generations that lived there.
I have a comment and then a question.
Yeah.
One, having been a resident of Burlington my entire life, save 1 year in Whistler, which every good Burlingtonian seemed to have done at some point, or Ontarian anyway. The I aside from going there as a kid in school, it's kind of like it's just there and you almost never notice it. And so I can only imagine that people that are new to the city and the area probably almost have no clue that it's there. So very interesting there. My question is, this is a simple one. Um, does the Ireland family still live in Burlington or still live around here or?
Yeah, so the Ireland family, when you come to the interpretive center, there's this really cool family tree that we can show you. And the family tree is massive,
Hmm.
because the first generation that lived there, they had 8 children. The second generation had 12 children. So you can
Wow.
imagine how many more
Yeah, it
children came
totally,
from that.
yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
there's lots of Ireland family members in the neighborhood, in Ontario, in Canada. The family itself occasionally hosts actually like a family get together and reunion there.
Mhm.
And at that museum, it's
That's
actually
cool.
our mandate to only accept items as donations that relate to the Ireland family. So we have a lot of items coming in that are being given to us by family members that are still around, and they're ready to kind of donate it and ready for it to become part of the historical site.
And it's really cool too because Burlington has a knack for naming things after their families. So we've got in Heddon Forest, you've got Ireland Park, you've got Alton Village, which is another older family that's been around a long time in the Burlington area. There's a lot of that going on, and even the street names have kind
Yeah,
of
there's
come
even
down that
like
way.
a lot of people don't know this, but where Burlington, where Mapleview Mall is, used to be a farm, huge farm. So Thorpe Road, leading up to the mall, was actually a
Yeah,
huge farming family there.
that's cool. Very cool. So, what's something about Burlington's history that you know based on your experience with these two museums that would surprise people?
I think a lot of people know that we have a big agricultural past.
Mhm.
I don't think as many people would know how impactful Burlington was in the agriculture industry, not only within Ontario, but within Canada and within the world. Like we
Mm.
were shipping apples to Great Britain from
No
here in
way.
the late 1800s. We developed what's called like fruit experimentation stations here. We developed like our own kind of melon that was sold by a family. So really, like we had Tip Top Canners down here, which relates to Aylmer's, which you buy now in the stores. So really just pioneers in kind of like the food industry and shipping food and keeping food fresh. And yeah, I think a lot of people know like we were the Garden of Canada, but just how many cool things farmers and like farm scientists did and agriculturalists is really neat.
Focusing a little bit on the Joseph Brant Museum. So Joseph Brant was an indigenous person
Mhm.
in the area and helped develop the area quite a bit. In fact, I sold a property once that was part of a heritage designation because Joseph Brant's daughter owned the property around that area at some point,
Yes.
and they had to, in order to, this was in Roseland actually, and they had, in order to build a house there, which everyone's doing now, they had to sort of work through that process of negotiating that sort of thing there. But the history of that seems to be everywhere. Like the fingers of Joseph Brant seem to be everywhere across South Burlington. It's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, and it's not even just Burlington. So, you have Brantford, which
Right.
was actually named after Brant's Ford, which is where he would live. So
Oh,
that's named after Joseph Brant as well. You actually have his burial site in Brantford as well. So you'll see it throughout
oh,
Burlington. You'll see, we have Brant Street, we have the museum here, we have some of his artifacts, but a lot of his life took place not only here, but in the United States, in Ontario, and in Brantford a lot of the time too. So yeah, there's definitely peppering of his history kind of all across. Southern Ontario. He even shows up in the Outlander series. A lot of people don't know that, but
no
he
way.
shows up in that. And we were actually contacted by the filming company to get some more information on, what he would have looked like and what he would have worn and things
Are
like
you
that.
kidding me? That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely like well known. And if you go to Ottawa, there's a big statue of him there as well. So
So
yeah,
this
just
person, this person had a huge impact on the growth of even our nation in a bit of a way.
yeah, definitely like an important and interesting figure to look into, but definitely particularly the growth and development of downtown Burlington here for sure. Essentially, a lot of people refer to him as kind of Burlington's first developer, and the fact that he was selling land and people started to build homes and farms and things like that.
Mm. So the museum that you currently have for Joseph Brant is actually pretty much new. Like in the last what 10 years or so, they've
2019, not even 10
Oh
years.
my God, I even think, wow, that's crazy. So it's not even that far. So what I remember was a little tiny small building, on the corner there at what is it, North Shore and Maple there, and that was it. But now it's this spectacular design, like just a beautiful building. So tell me a little bit about that process and how that's gone.
Yeah, so one of the most beautiful things about this new build is the fact that it's completely accessible.
Right.
So basically, what was the historic home, which is actually a replica. A lot of people don't know that. So the house that's a replica was lifted up. It now holds our administrative offices.
Hmm.
And downstairs is this lovely new build that hosts our artifact storage, our exhibits, program rooms. You can even rent this space. There's a wonderful rooms to rent here. And we also have around the exterior of the reproduction house, we have a rooftop terrace, which we host a lot of events on. And this rooftop has probably, I would say, the best view of downtown Burlington around. So we have events up on this rooftop terrace, like watching fireworks on Canada Day, or taking in local musicians during the summer. So it's really quite like a flexible, new, modern space that can be used. And a lot of the architecture in it is very kind of wavy and round, kind of reflecting that we're
Lake.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lakefront
yeah,
here.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool. What does the funding look like? Do you require donation, or how do you keep afloat? Because I mean, in museums,
That's a great question.
like
That's
I'm
a great
asking for the
question.
sake of the idea that, do we need to donate? Like, what are we doing to help?
Yeah, so it is confusing for a lot of people. Because I think they think we're like a municipal kind of structure here. So we actually are required to get the funding for ourselves, the majority of it. So we are a nonprofit.
Right.
Every event, education program, every program we run here is raising funds to continue the maintenance of our heritage collection here and to continue developing heritage programs. We also partner with something called the Burlington Museums Foundation, and their priority is raising funds for the museum so that we can run this programming. So anytime you're buying like a ticket to one of our events, that's helping us further develop programming for the community here. So yeah, we are a nonprofit that's required to raise our own funds.
Tell me a little bit about, from a family perspective, because some museums are boring for kids. Tell me a little bit about some of the kids' activities that you can do in some of these museums, in both of these museums.
Yeah, so kids' activities are a high priority for us. We love working with families. So Joseph Brandt, as I said, there's already like a kids gallery in
Mhm,
here. It's awesome.
mhm.
A place for kids to play. We host like a toddler days here, which is always filling up because toddlers in wintertime, people are going crazy at home. So it's an hour or two of respite.
Sure.
As I said, we have rotating exhibits that come into our showcase gallery. So a lot of the times those exhibits feature like a kid zone. So we have a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math
Mhm.
book nook right now.
Cool.
So that with, things to build, Lego and structures and books to read about STEM. And then Island House, although people may think like, oh, it's a historic home, I don't know about taking my kids there. Our tours are quite engaging. We
Mhm.
have staff there. We're used to working with kids. Island House is also where we work and do a lot of camps. So a lot of
Mm.
camps. We had like we did a Victorian board game cafe on Family Day. So we host a lot of family friendly events and activities at Island House that allow children to like engage with the historical past. We have a culinary kids club there.
Mm.
Just lots of things for families to enjoy. The best place always to find anything is our website, and our newsletter is an absolute fount of information that goes out about bi-weekly, just with all our programs that we do for kids and families and seniors too.
Sure. Well, I mean, you're in a family-oriented city now at this point. I mean,
Yes.
it's certainly very family-oriented. There's a lot of family neighborhoods and things like that. And it just would be silly if you didn't include this stuff. And it really appears you've gone overboard. So that's great.
Yeah.
I got a super nerdy question for you, and maybe
Yeah.
you can or can't answer. So is there a really cool item or something that you've seen in one of the exhibits somewhere that you're like, that's just the coolest thing ever?
Yeah. So there's one in the basement of Ireland House that tends to be people's favorite. And
I told
it's,
you.
oh, the
She shows
dog. You
up
didn't say it
and
would be
she
a
shows
dog
up
or
as
a
a
bear.
dog. And this is the funnest part of my day. So
Yeah.
I love that when she shows up on Zoom this way.
Yeah.
We had the over under at 15 minutes, Karen. So you're at 16 minutes, which means that whoever was over 15 minutes, they win. We're going to start betting at this point. So we were in the middle of a question about the coolest item, and I totally got sidetracked. So
Sorry. Hi, Miriam. Nice to meet
Hi.
you.
Yeah.
You
So the
too.
coolest item that you've seen or that you found over there.
Well, I think this would probably be the coolest item that guests find in our museum, and I've only seen one other one in a museum in the Kawarthas. We have a treadmill butter churn. So it's a butter churn that you would have put a small farm animal like a goat or a dog on, and they would run on the treadmill, and
Oh
it
my
churns the
gosh.
butter. I always like to say like maybe a bad kid too, if you're not behaving, run on the treadmill butter churn. But that's pretty, and that's an Ireland House. Like The thing about it is, I think people look at the historic home and they think, old, musty, but these people, the Irelands, were so inventive and creative. And it's just amazing what you could do with the resources that you had. Like, there's an actual well inside the house because
Oh,
they added an addition to the home. Instead of digging a new well when they added an addition, they just gave themselves indoor plumbing. They kept the well and put a board on it, put the pump in their house, and there you go. Because they're not going to go dig another 30 feet for another well. Like, they were just so smart in how they invented things back
so
then.
the epitome of like technological advances for their time frame was
Oh, 100,
happening, you know.
yeah,
That's
a
so
hundred
cool.
percent. Yeah, it's very cool. And yeah, I think we just sometimes don't give enough credit for the inventions that they had and just how smart they were with the actions that they took.
Why do you think it's important for a city like Burlington to invest in preserving their history like this?
Oh, I could go on for like an hour, even though I know
I
it's
love
only
it.
30 minutes. But I mean, this is your past. This is like, you have agency in this. This is the past of where you are living. It's so important to know about where you live and how it came to be what it is today. Everything you see out there in Burlington has so much history behind it. Like you said, why is the street named that street? When you're going down Brant Street, why is it named that? We have like a lecture series we're working on called the namesake series, Streets, Roads, and Boulevards. Because,
Mm.
like, do you ever go down Guelph Line and think like, well, this isn't Guelph, but why is it named Guelph Line? That's what kind of got me interested. Like, the businesses here, what are they named after? How did they start? Everything around you, the different cultures in
Mm.
Burlington, they all have a history of how they got here and how they started. And history is not just 1800s, 1700s. History is what happened yesterday, right? History is the past. History was 5 minutes ago.
Hmm.
So it's important in every sense. And yeah, there's just so much to learn. And like, even I'm looking across at Spencer Smith Park right now. A lot of people wouldn't know that used to be like half the size that it was. It actually got pushed out more. There used to be the biggest entertainment business in Ontario, the Brant Inn, perhaps even in Canada, just across the street from me there. So it's not just we're not just some like little bedroom community for Toronto. We have quite a bit of interesting history in so many aspects of Canadian history in general.
Miriam, so the Brantine, is that the one that burnt down?
There was a time when one of the structures had a fire,
Yeah, a big
but it
fire.
was it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
rebuilt.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it has a
yeah,
long, like, complex history of moving from one
yeah,
side of the
yeah,
street to the other. But we
Mm.
have a whole gallery on it actually at the
yeah,
museums.
yeah.
So I have before we get on, because I'm really excited now that we've had this chat. I'm super excited about upcoming events because you're an incredible steward of this information and for the city of Burlington and the history of Burlington. I love this. So hauntings.
Justin,
No, it's okay. We get this question all the time. Do you have
he
a
loves
question
it.
about it, or do
He
you want me
Well,
loves
I
to?
it,
just kind of want to
Joanna.
know if there is any. Has anybody talked about this in? I know that the new Joseph Brant Museum may not have the same spiritual element because it's all new, but the Ireland House specifically, like, I mean, that's a ton of history built into that.
So we do have a lot of groups that come in and do kind of, um, kind of spiritual searching activities within the house. I
Mhm.
think it totally depends on what kind of person you are. If you're someone like me who may have to lock up the house in the evening, you might not think there's anything in there. You've convinced yourself we're good on the spirit. I like to think there's a lovely spirit of the Ireland
Just
kind of
ignore it.
guiding the work we're doing. But I think it depends on the person you are and what you believe in terms of hauntings. That's what I always tell people. But we do have a cool event that happens in October, and
Mhm.
it's called Ireland House After Dark Victorian Mourning, and it talks all about like Victorian death and mourning traditions, and also the Victorian belief in like spirituality and ghosts and stuff like that. So if you're wondering about like
Interesting.
hauntings or ghosts, coming in October for one of those after dark tours, we even give out little funeral biscuits.
There
So
is so much more going on at these places than I ever thought. And I've been living in Burlington for 45 years. and not just the hauntings, but I mean, just all the events that you seem to be hosting and things that you're doing
Yeah.
this is incredible. I'm glad I'm learning this. This is so really cool. So let's go there. Let's talk about, you said before we started that you're very excited about some things.
Yes.
Let's go.
Oh,
Let's
I'll
talk
go.
about it. Go.
Stop me if you
You're
need
on.
to. No, so in April, and it'll be opening April 18th, we have a new exhibit coming from Pier 21, the Canadian Museum of Immigration. First time it's traveled out of the museum.
Pier
And
21 is in Halifax?
Halifax, yes,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
Yeah.
my husband's actually from Nova Scotia, so we've been around it a couple times, but I've never had the chance to actually go in it. So I'm hoping in July when we go.
Cool.
But yeah, so it's coming, and it's an exhibit called Eat, Make, Share: A Taste of Immigration. And it just looks awesome. It's going to be great. We had an exhibit from them before that was absolutely top notch, fabulous. So it's going to be coming, and it's all about Canadian culinary traditions and how a lot of our culinary traditions have come from other places in the world, from immigrants. So we're going to be doing some cool, like, kids cooking programming with that. We're going to be doing something called Dine and Dance, where you are tasting the food from one culture and
And then you
learning
go dancing?
that culture. Yeah. So it's just we're carrying the book called The Dépanneur from a restaurant in Toronto called The Dépanneur, and it's a cookbook with over 100 recipes from 80 different Canadian immigrants that you're able to buy at our bookstore. A lot of people don't know, like, you can come to our museum without paying the admission and go to the gift shop, and we have a ton of local items and Canadian made items that relate to our exhibits that are going on.
Now, did you tell our viewers where your museum is?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we've been down that road.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Right downtown, the big
Yeah,
white
right
house on a
downtown,
hill. So yeah, we have that exhibit coming. As I said, we do a Canada Day event here called Fireworks from the Rooftop, where you get the best view in the city of the drone and fireworks show over on the lake. At Ireland House this year, we will be hosting our Heritage Fiber Fest again. So it's all about, like, the fiber arts, but we activate the house with actual fiber artists in costume doing crocheting in the room that Ireland's would have done crocheting. And we had kids dyeing yarn with walnuts from our walnut trees on the property. We had alpacas. So it's a very cool, like, interactive day. And I think people are like, oh, yarn, and I'm like, it's so cool. And we do a lot of sort of Christmas festive things over at Highland House. So I mentioned we have our After Dark tour series. We're going to be doing a series in May that's about the restoration of the home. So when we got the home as the museum's organization, it did not look how it looks right now, right? A family had been living in it for 4 generations. So we're going to do after hours tours that actually show you, hey, this is what it looked like. Like, at one point, this wasn't a lady's sitting room. This was someone's bedroom. And this was the process we had to go through to bring it to what it is today.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm so nerdy.
So
I could go on forever. But
So,
yeah, it's just.
Miriam, are you in charge of all of this arranging and
The event planning. Yeah.
scheduling all of this?
We work, everything here is as one big team. I do kind of head the events portion of it, but we have someone who's heading the exhibit, someone who's doing the education program, and we cross-pollinate with our departments all the time. Because, for example, we did that Victorian board game cafe the other day for Family Day, and we actually pulled out artifacts that were board games that the Ireland family played with. So I'm calling curatorial saying, can you get me some artifacts on the table? I'm calling education. Does anybody on your team know how to make lattes? So everything's a big team effort here.
So we got a couple minutes left, and I got a few questions just to close on.
Sure.
If you could go back in time and visit any moment in Burlington's history and just be like, I want to be a fly on the wall for that moment, do you think that there's something that could come to mind for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So we have there's a big picture of Queen Victoria in Ireland House, and it's a really cool story behind the picture. So you guys know about the X that happens in Toronto, right? Still happens. You get, like, mustard flavored ice cream. So that's been around for over 100 years. It used to be just agriculture. So the Irelands went to the X in the late 1800s and submitted a bushel of apples, and they won at the X the best bushel of apples out of Ontario. And for that, they received this
Wow.
portrait of Queen Victoria. We actually have hanging above the piano, and $5. And I think it was in 1896. And I would love to be there at the X when it
Yes.
before Toronto was what it is today. Not that I don't love it, but when it was like, old, beautiful buildings, and when agriculture was agriculture, and when these
Yes.
people won such a amazing prize that now, like, I get to show people on a tour. Like, this is physically from the late 1800s, this portrait.
That is
Not
I think
only,
that would be
not,
great.
not only would you want to be there at the time, but even dressing like they dressed, as the women dressed and the men
Yes.
dressed, eh?
All I
Yeah.
can say is I'm so happy we can wear pants. Like, I would have not fared well. Maybe you didn't have to shave your legs as much, but I'm so glad we can wear pants.
That's hilarious. Okay, so last closing question, unless Karen has anything else because she jumped in late. What do you
No.
hope every visitor feels when they leave the museum?
I hope that they feel that they themselves are reflected somehow in what they're seeing. I hope that they can take a sense that this is their history as well. And this is what has made the place that they live in today what it is. And if you're a visitor from elsewhere, from around Burlington, I hope you can see how Burlington has somehow influenced, or you can see similarities in where you're from in the development of Burlington.
That's amazing. This conversation has been so cool. And what I love about it is you're not just doing a job. Like you can tell that you're invested in this in a way that is beyond your job, which is so cool because that's what you need in this
That
sort of thing,
goes for
right?
everyone here.
Yeah, and it's a very cool opportunity to visit Burlington's history and some of Canada's history by the sounds of it, which
Yep.
is really cool. And wow, like, okay, so we're gonna put the links below for the actual websites for the museums. Within those websites, there are links to the events that are happening and the different exhibits that are happening at any given time. And this has been awesome. And I'm
Yeah.
very appreciative that you came on.
I appreciate you asked us. It's been a great time.
It's great. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And we'll be back next week and have a lot of fun until then.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.